3-0 loss to Benfica. I want to start with Koeman. Kike Setien was let go 3 days after the Bayern 8-2. 3 days after that happened. Koeman is at this point supremely a sitting duck, and I don't remember the last time a Barcelona president was this much of a lame duck since, actually, ironically enough, Rijkaard, when everybody knew he was going to be fired, and yet I think he finished out the last 2 months basically after the announcement that he was going to be gone.
Yeah, they let him. Yeah, I think they let him finish out the season, and then but I mean the Koeman thing. I mean, because I saw that there was rumors, I guess, floating around that he was going to get the chop today, but then he didn't. And then I just saw that it was he will definitely be in charge for the Atletico game, after which I guess we're going to an international break. That typically tends to be a time when teams will make these types of coaching changes. My assumption is that he gets the Atleti game, and almost regardless of what happens. I mean, I guess barring some sort of miraculous 4-0 win or something like that.
I disagree. I don't think it matters. And also, it's not going to happen. Like, it's this weird thing.
Oh, no. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, it won't happen. Yeah. But I mean, but I think basically he gets the chop either, Sunday morning or Monday morning or whenever they choose to do it. But it's done. I mean, there's no clawing this thing back. Because whatever little bit of, because there was some kind of good vibes. I was on Twitter and just, I was watching the game with some people, the Levante game on, what was it, Monday night? And there were some good vibes in the aftermath of that, just because there hadn't been a calm, smooth sailing, business-like 3-0 win in, man, who knows how long. And it was very much, we don't want to make too much of this. This is one outing and we have the Champions League coming up and everything. But it was, there was at least just some like good vibes for a night where you can say that, okay, every positive run, every upswing has to start from somewhere. It starts with a result. And I mean, it took so little time. And, Koeman put out a curious lineup, and I don't know. I feel like, I mean, the guys are playing hard, but I think they're playing hard because they're professionals. I don't get the sense that they're playing hard because of any kind of burning desire to save the coach or any, deep belief in his philosophy or his system. They're playing hard because they're proper professionals, and this is what they do. But I don't think there's anything left there other than the professional pride of the individuals.
Yeah, I think, again, at this point, Barcelona are at a point where regardless of what Frankie de Jong or Sergio Busquets have said, the manager is so far gone. They've stopped playing for him. And I think even for Barcelona and Koeman, that when I saw the lineup, and this is another little discretion where, unfortunately for me yesterday, I was working almost all day and I actually didn't even see the score. That's why you didn't hear from me yesterday. I did not see anything of the score. There's no YouTube match review for it because I didn't finish watching the match until about 3 a.m. US time, which was about 9 hours ago before we started recording this. And, went to bed, tried to sleep on it. But all I did see prior to the match was the starting lineup. And I got this feeling in the pit of my stomach that, the question that somebody had asked me, actually, where I was actually, ironically enough, doing a soccer broadcast. And one of the other people there asked me when the last time Barcelona was in the Europa League. And the answer is 2003, 2004 is when they were last in the UEFA Cup and the UEFA Europa League. And prior to that, it was the 2000, 2001 season, once in the 90s. And then we're talking going back to the 80s. And for most of the 70s, while Johan Cruyff was there, it was called the UEFA Cup at the time, but it just had a different distinction, if you will. And the rules were different about how many Spanish teams got in. And since that time, since the Champions League has been expanded and more teams go through to the knockout stage, the answer is Barcelona is always there. Basically, that's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, because there was once upon, and I don't recall exactly when the various tweaks were made to, because the what's the Europa League now became it's like an amalgamation of the UEFA Cup and the Cup Winners' Cup and everything. But it used to be the European Cup was, I mean, definitely the champion. I don't even think there for a long time there wasn't even a second team from each country.
Right. I mean,
I don't know what.
back in the 60s, it was called the Intercities Fairs Cup.
Yeah,
That was the predecessor, even the earliest predecessor, if you will, to the to that. And so, that was basically an invitation where a bunch of teams would come in, and then that expanded over time. And yeah. So anyway, the point is, I want to go back even to the starting lineup here. Why I say it was dead on arrival. Between one player that would frustrate me, or two players together that would frustrate me, were one thing. But it was a combination of a 3-4-1-2, I guess you'd call it, or a 5-2, depending on what you think Pedri's positioning was. And this lineup, the reason, again, once I say dead on arrival, is that you could circle Eric Garcia and say, why was Eric Garcia picked over Mingueza? Good question. Why was Roberto picked over Mingueza? And now you're asking about the lineup, right? We've seen that Mingueza this year has been playing at right back. And I don't understand for the life of me why Ronald Koeman decided to detour from that 4-3-3 with Mingueza potentially at the back at right back, and then Dest out on the left, where he was very good as a left back against Levante. And then you keep Araujo and Piqué in the middle. And I mean, as I've said about Eric Garcia, I think everybody else has kind of already done it. I again say that I believe in him, but I believe in him if he's a better version of himself. But he again had another terrible performance, and he should be deservedly, even at the age of 20, he should be put on the bench. And Lenglet should potentially get his minutes now. Eric Garcia, it's not working. He doesn't have, whether Barcelona is right, and he doesn't have the physical metal up top to contend so far. He's being pushed off the ball way too easily. His it's not even his positioning, but it just overall as a defender, he does not have the savvy at the moment. He's being just ripped apart 1v1. And then it's a concession that Eric Garcia was the wrong choice when Araujo would switch over to the right. But then the question becomes, why would you start Eric Garcia on the right and Ron Araujo on the left if you were just going to immediately change it anyway when the first sign of danger, when Eric Garcia had an issue on that first goal, because Darwin Nunez was more comfortable on the left. But how did you not know that Darwin Nunez? I mean, I told you or not you, but I told everybody in the YouTube preview that Darwin Nunez has been playing off the left, coming off the left as an inverted forward, and then finding his space there. So why would you let Darwin Nunez get a one-on-one shot against Eric Garcia from the very beginning? And then Sergio Roberto, you think he's going to cover in behind? Absolutely not. And so, like, those little things from the jump, you knew that this was over, which is crazy. 3 minutes in, the goal happens, and everybody knew. I knew it. I looked at my dog. I'm like, it's 1 a.m. It's 2 a.m. and I have to sit. What am I going to do? What's going to happen here? And you just do it.
Like I have to keep doing this for an hour and a half. Yeah, because I was out watching the game yesterday, and I mean, it was a nice night. So I probably might have been out for a little while anyway around the time or anything. But so kind of excited to sit down and everything. 3 minutes in, you take a shot to the gut, and and my whole thought was like, man, I kind of committed to sitting here for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I have to. It's exactly like you said. I mean, I'm not gonna leave, but there was so little. I mean, other than half chances too. At no point did it feel like the tide was turning. I mean, we've seen games in the past, not with this particular iteration of Barca, but with Barca teams past, where, sometimes you eat the early goal, something happens, whatever. But you get the sense that everyone's a little bit sheepish, everyone's a little mad, but they're pulling it together, and they're going to fight back. This is going to be a competitive game. I don't know that I definitely didn't think Barca would score at all yesterday, but I didn't get the sense that they were ever truly on the front foot, and that they ever really were exerting control over the game. I mean, they had, there were individual moves and, kind of particular moments that weren't abjectly terrible, but by and large, I mean, I never got the sense that Barca were really preparing to throw their own haymakers back.
Yeah, and I don't know what you pin that on, or where you pin that to. I think one of it is obviously I usually go through the tactics and everything, but there was very little to analyze. Barcelona, the frustration is because they put on the performance they did. I don't need to galaxy brain what happened here. I think it's pretty clear. As I said, from the opening whistle, from the opening lineup, Benfica found a really easy way to exploit the spaces that Barcelona were leaving behind. And it didn't get any better when you took Frankie de Jong, who was playing his normal box-to-box role and doing what he was doing. And then they moved him back instead of switching to a 4-3-3. And that is, I think, what broke my brain a little bit too, even when Gavi came on for Gerard Piqué, which after he'd picked up the yellow, looked like he was going to get a red. And it was an admittance that Piqué, not that Piqué wasn't the right choice, but he was the sacrificial lamb for what was the wrong choice to opening the game with. And then Gavi was supposed to be the hope and the prayer because he was coming off the bench, with no disrespect to Coutinho, the most informed midfielder to put in that kind of physical kind of game, which is crazy because he's 17. But yeah, it was an admittance that the lineup had to be changed. Things had to be worked around. And so instead of then going to a 4-3-3, which he kind of did in some senses with Sergio Roberto coming back to play, but then it looked more like a 5 at the back than it did actually a 4-3-3 at all, because again, it remained De Jong at the back with then Araujo and Eric Garcia, and Garcia moving over to the right. So just an admittance that everything was wrong. It didn't really help the team because, again, you took one of the better attacking options. That brings to the point of Pedri, that people were really getting on Pedri yesterday because he wasn't releasing the ball quick enough. To me, he didn't look like he had not even match fitness, but it didn't look like he had the rhythm of the match down. And that's what happens when you're on the snide and then you immediately get inserted into a Champions League game that's must win. And so I was wondering, I mean, Pedri is, I think, at his best, the starter for Barcelona, but also you can't throw a player in who has been on who's been on the bench or been injured and isn't ready for that moment again. And then up top, it's funny, as much as I feel like people are going to say, oh, you make excuses for blah, 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 blah. The one player that I feel like I might make a little bit of excuse for is Luke de Jong, because all of his misses yesterday were once again another reminder that it's not supposed to be him. It's supposed to be almost everybody else other than Luke de Jong. And the one indictment of Luke de Jong goes back on Koeman, because Koeman fought for him. That the agreement between Laporta and Koeman was that, all right, we can't get you Wijnaldum, we can't get you some of the other players you want, but we'll get you Luke de Jong because he's available and we can get you him for free on loan from Sevilla. So that's a player that Koeman asked for. And that's the player, if you will, other than Memphis Depay, that Koeman got. And whatever Koeman thought he was going to get out of Luke de Jong is not only is it not going to happen, but I mean, not only has it not happened, but it's not going to happen. Gosh.
No, I mean, I don't.
Goodness.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I mean, I think it's exactly like you said, because there are elements of things that there are elements of things that the guy does reasonably well. He is not cut out to be, leading a line for Barcelona. Like he's not the number 9 for Barca. He's particularly not the number 9. He's the kind of guy that, he might have thrived on one of those vintage, just stellar Barca teams where kind of enough of the attention was just diffused all over all of the teammates, and he could poach.
We're basically comparing him to Jefferson Suarez. So I don't want to throw name, but he was on. He did play in the Manita, right? If I remember right, he scored one of the goals.
He scored the last one. Yeah.
So no offense to Jefferson Suarez, but he was so far below the talent of the rest of his teammates in that all-conquering side. That is basically what Luke de Jong is, where I don't want to see him until the last 15 minutes of a game. And if he is starting for your team up top, you're probably not going to get a goal unless one of the other forwards is scoring it, or they're setting it up for Luke de Jong on a platter, which is exactly what was done for him. And he failed to do that on 2 different occasions, the one of which would have been offside, the one where he kind of bumbled it off his knee/hip or whatever.
Oh man,
even that one was rough. It was offside, but the ball should have been in the back of the net.
How do you not accidentally put that into the net?
Yeah, and I just want to see it go in the net, even if it's offside. Goodness gracious!
Oh yeah, they don't even have to count at this point
either, Emile.
Yeah, they don't even have to count at this point. Just because I kind of think of the goal that he got against Levante, which was Serginho Dest put it perfectly. Essentially played him through to the penalty spot and he was able to slot it home from there. And it's kind of like you said, if Luke de Jong is leading your line, and I know I don't want to be overly kind of I don't mind being being critical of Luke De Jong as such, but kind of Sevilla is a good team, and he was a part of that team, and they are a really good team. But in this sense, if Luke De Jong is leading your line as he was, I guess, being expected to lead the line last night, you're not that good. Just like it's the harsh reality. It's at some point I don't know where the match winners were yesterday. I mean, uh Frankie de Jong looked decent, before the move backwards. He had moments he looked decent. Memphis was game, but he didn't really generate much of anything. And so I don't know who the match winner was supposed to be, where the sort of stroke of brilliance was supposed to come from.
Well, I think the expectation would it would come from Memphis, but the other thing I would say about trying to analyze this match, and the reason why I'm not again trying to analyze much of anything tactically, that other than Ter Stegen, who had his worst match in about a year, Ter Stegen he was just bad. He was flat out bad. Maybe Barca's worst player, which is crazy to think, but potentially Barca's worst player, which you can't have at a European night. But other than Ter Stegen, the players that played poorly yesterday were the ones that you almost, and unfortunately, these 17-year-olds and 14-year-olds on the internet have figured out are going to be Barcelona's worst players. And I think that was part of the frustration too, that Sergio Roberto, which is a player that many people are out on, should never be at the club that, they say, and why was he given the captain's armband at one point in that match when other captains had come off? And not only did he get the start after being out for a game and immediately handed to it, he was worse than Dest on the other side, where the players who I expected to not be up to snuff yesterday, that being Eric Garcia, that being Luke de Jong, that being Sergio Roberto, and then even Piqué had a rough one, and Busquets was not great yesterday. And it kind of affected even the players that I expected to play well. Ronald Araujo had maybe his worst match of the season, which is saying something, yet he was leagues better than Piqué and Eric Garcia. Memphis was fine in the match. He was creating a bit. He was finding a few spaces, but there was just a lack of cohesion. He seemed like he was completely alone up on an island where Luke de Jong wasn't really combining with him, wasn't really helping. And then he and Pedri did not look prepared to play next to one another. And again, the admittance off the bench. Yes, Fati was never going to come on early, but by putting on Mingueza, Gabi, Nico, and even actually in this case, Coutinho, having played against Levante, by throwing Coutinho as well in the 68th minute, he may not be a young player, I think Coutinho, but what was Nico and Fati when they came in, and Oscar in the 89th minute, why even put him in the game? What were those young players supposed to do, right? How do you expect a young player to change the fortunes of a game? How are they supposed to be the ones who are emotionally going to flip that switch when you're veterans, when you're leaders, when you're experienced players just cannot do that? And I felt like there was this push, right? Of the future generation is trying to push not only positivity, but to change the feeling that FC Barcelona as a club had on the feeling. And they're supposed to use their youth and their optimism to, change what all Kool-Aids are watching, while the veterans and the experienced players and the ones who we knew would struggle in Europe against whoever they needed to be. Whenever there's a must-win game in Europe, the veterans and the experienced players are going to struggle. And it seemed like the experienced players were almost telling the young players, like, no, we've lost this match. This is over. We're done. Yeah. This is a European night, and we're losing by more than 2 goals. There's no comeback coming. There's no goal even coming. This is over.